Where's the puppy? Oh yeah, I was gonna say I gotta mute that. Who's beautiful, huh? You're such a pretty puppy. You just want to hang out with us, huh? You don't want to be left nowhere. Yeah. Okay. What are you gonna do now, dog? Remember putting my car in the wall outside?
Alright.
What is that puppy?
Yeah, that thing steams pretty good.
Dude, we're gonna have to open the door, dude. I gotta turn that off.
You could die here for that
What are you guys smoking on, you know? Taking sauce? Dude, that stuff's harsh, bro. That stuff's harsh. So what up, everybody? Anybody watching?
Got Brandon. What's up, Brandon? I think they went crawling today up there.
Yeah, I saw something about that. Maybe get shit all day long for owning a Toyota, so. Dude, Kelly's brutal, bro. So I didn't know they made vaginas in four-wheel drives. I'm like, oh my god, come on, Kelly, you didn't say that. Oh, Kelly. We love Kelly. I said, well, why don't you go get in your full-size Dodge and I'll hop in my little Toyota and we'll go up to the side of the mountain and see what gets to the top first, you know?
Yeah, this little truck, I had a Ranger that was wheeled better than the full size.
Like I said, man, I loved my F-150. It was the operating cost. It was $150 to fill it up for 215 miles. You know, $1,200 for registration here in California. It was just all around. It was every time you touched the truck, it was expensive, you know. And I'm not talking $200-300 expensive. I'm talking $1,000, you know. Put a rack up every, you know. So, well, what up, everybody? We're gonna do a little shark frenzy for you tonight. We wanted to show off some other cool things that in the RC world that we've been playing with. Want to give a huge shout out to Paul Peterson of Shark RC Bodies. Go over to sharkrcbodies.com, and Shark's got some new stuff that we're getting ready to drop, and it's going to be pretty cool. I want to give a huge shout out to Steve Villanueva of R1 wurks, all your battery and speed control and motor needs. If you want to go get some of the best stuff on the market, I'm just going to say it, it's the best stuff on the market. there's just such a variance so much room for power to be made with the R1 products that, and it's not just the R1 products making power; it's that they walk hand in hand with being reliable. You know, it's reliable power. So get on over and check out. We got some R1 stuff to show you tonight. That stuff stinks. That tank. I want to give a huge shout out to Wade at Madfish. He does the tire covers and stuff like that. I want to give a huge shout out to Milo Carvalho at Flash Packs Got Packs. I thought I'd give him a little rep tonight. Milo's became a friend of mine when I was doing the 707 thing, and he kicked me down a lot of stuff, and I made him a lot of money doing a lot of promotions for him. And the time's right, you know, I kind of pushed away from other companies to run all R1 stuff, and I'm in two of my cars I still run. I will only run the R1 stuff, but I mean, this has got a flash pack, this has got a flash pack, you know. They're great, and there has been some recent testing on the internet with just like, you know, bar none, bottom line, bottom dollar kind of testing, and you can't beat the flash packs. So they're just awesome packs. I want to give a huge shout out to WebRC and get on over to their YouTube page and like their page and go check out their stuff. I also want to urge anybody who might be new, I know we got a bunch of new members this month, to go over and check out Funky Monkey Judd on YouTube. That's our YouTube channel where all these videos go. We used to do these every week. It's been really, it's been tough. I mean, with Rich moved and started a new job, and I bought my first place, and it's just it's been a long road for the last 6 months. So I recently 3 weeks ago took over as supervisor at the PD. For what I do, and that allowed me enabled me to not be able to go to the Chili Bowl this year. So I want to give a huge shout out to all the guys and gals that made it out to the RC Chili Bowl in Oklahoma. To Norm John of Norm's Machine Shop in Petaluma, California. He old school. They build they're a normal machine shop, but that's where a lot of the Northern California dirt oval racers go to have a lot of their heads and stuff done. So if you need a good machine shop, you're in Northern California, then contact Norm and the boys down at Norm's Machine Shop in Petaluma. Huge shout out to Kelly Purdy of Muffler Works of Petaluma. If you want a sweet exhaust system, get on over to. You need a cap replaced. You want a lift kit put on. You want your razor. He does a full razor stuff. So if you have you want a custom sound system or long drop suspension system or something like long travel, you can get on over there and they'll hook it all up. So this was my card for the Chili Bowl this year. Me and Rich, it would just kind of kick myself because I've seen some video of the mod sprint there, and those guys they're moving, but this car here, this car is a force to be reckoned with. This car works so good. Me and Rich worked our butts off on this thing, dialing in and going out and run it, dialing in and go out and run it. This thing is an R1 Works Digital 3 with the R1 cap in it. It's got an R1 servo in it. It's got it runs an R1 pack, and the only thing that's not R1 in it is because I couldn't get one was the motor. So I won't say what brand is in it. It's an off brand. It's nothing fancy, but it gets the job done. Or maybe it is a really fancy one, and I just want you to line up. It's a very powerful car. It does very, very well. So it's got the wheels and tires. It's got the DE. I want to give a huge shout out to Dave Enstrom of DE Racing Tires. It's got the DE wheels on there. The only reason why I got the Custom Works tires on there is for the fact that we're going to go do some club racing at Delta soon down in Antioch, California. This is the tire that they run down there. So I believe they have a clay track.
Clay, yeah.
What is that?
I believe so.
Is that my surround sound in the living room?
It could be.
It's all boom, 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 boom. I was like, holy shit, what is up there? So yeah, this is a Custom Works Outlaw 4. It's an offset chassis, which was a feat in its own because a lot of these parts don't make sense when you first look at them out of the package. but the whole chassis and everything is all shifted over to one side in the car. And in an oval, that's what we do to keep the car more planted. As you get the oval to the weight to the inside, or a big huge majority of the weight to the inside, and that holds the car down through the turn. It's got as you can see right about there is steering forward, so it's got a bunch of rear steer in it. But yeah, I want to give a huge shout out to Randy Lathrop. Randy Lathrop down in Texas. He was at the Chili Bowl. He helped me for the last couple months. So mine was kind of I got kind of screwed by A-Main, but then A-Main made up for it. But I got my car, even though I got a free outlaw out of them for messing up my orders so bad, I still was 2 months behind the ball. So I barely had enough time to get the thing together, let alone dial it in like it is right now. And then right before Christmas, I made supervisor at work, man. And I'm telling, like Thursday, I left at 11 in the morning. They're like, "Where are you going?" I'm like, "Dude, I haven't slept. I'm working so much that it's not even funny." So in the next couple of weeks, I'll be able to get more of a rhythm down in my new position, and we'll be able to get back to a lot of this stuff. But it was just too much stuff at once to go out to Oklahoma. So we got a couple more cars brewing right now for Oval. We're going to be bringing those down to Antioch, and those things are going to get dialed in, and then we'll definitely make the next Chili Bowl. So that's it. I'm just not going next year, So another cool little toy that we've been playing with in my backyard. We're getting ready to make an off-road track, and I bought us a couple of these. This was they're the Losi Mini, I don't know, grab the box.
I don't know where's the box.
These are, we got these at our local hobby shop. Oh yeah, I want to give a huge shout out to Jake's Performance Hobbies. You can reach them at 707-586-3375. Tuesday through Saturday, I believe they're back to their normal schedule now, after the holidays. But this is just a scaled down version, basically, of a Losi 5.0. It's not lightning fast because it's brushed. I know you can put brushless in them, but I think these little cars, it's just too much power. It's a lot more fun, and you can actually drive a lot more aggressively with these cars. But this is what we picked up to go bash in the backyard. We've been having. I think you can pick these up. I think I paid $139.
$150.
150?
Yeah.
Okay, 150 for one of these. It comes 2.4 gigahertz. Jake's got stacks of them in stock. He's also got the Mini
quick.
T.
Huh? They're quick little things. They handle pretty
They
good.
are, and they handle exceptionally well. I mean, you wouldn't think that usually when you get a boiled down car like this, you get, some just piece of junk that barely works. This thing actually really works. It is a mid-motor version. I've had a Losi 5.0 or two, and this thing is a Losi 5.0, just a little tiny one, and it works just like a 5.0. It works really good. So we've been playing with those. Is anybody watching right now?
14 people.
Nice. You know what? If Cameron sees this, Cameron, I hope your surgery's going okay. I know Cameron had a couple vertebrae that was pinching off his spinal cord and stuff.
Oh wow!
And they didn't know why. They did an MRI and so I hope he's doing okay. The next thing that we've been playing with is this tank. This thing's pretty awesome. They're not the cheapest thing in the world. This was actually the cheaper model that didn't have the metal tracks and the metal gears and stuff like that. I mean, I didn't need to spend, buku bucks, but it's 2.4. It runs off 2S LiPo or nickel metal hydride. Let me start the engine. And it's pretty badass, dude.
I got my back view right now.
I'll get rich over time. So yeah, it's a pretty fun toy. We got this one at it's got exhaust, which is okay outside. It's really cool. We get it inside, and it's But anyway, I always wanted an RC tank, and I saw one of these over at a local shop here called Fundemonium that we have in town. I've seen all kinds of RC tanks over the years, but this one's just freaking rad. I mean, it's got full working suspension. It's a very, very, very nice model. So it comes with a little infrared laser beam thing that comes here. So if you have a buddy with another one, you guys can actually, make different sounds and stuff when you hit each other. My hatch is taped shut because I lost the cover for it, but this is where you load all the airsoft, and the cannon shoots airsoft. The cannon goes up, down, and the turret goes all the way around, and it's really cool. So it's this model here I think was about $339, I think, and the one that comes with the hopped up all metal gearboxes and metal tracks and all metal wheels and metal sprocket drive, I think is about $550, and I wasn't going to spend $550 on one of these, but I did always want a tank, and I'm happy with what it is, and it's pretty cool. It's pretty cool. I want to get it in some dirt, That's what it needs is dirt. It doesn't like big pebbles about that big.
Yeah, you got to put the heavier tracks on it for that.
So yeah, that's another thing we've been playing with. Let's get rid of some of this stuff, and then hand me over the marble. Where's the dog at?
Laying down over there.
Oh, you being a good girl. So we have a new member of Judd's RC Motorsports here. Yeah, I had to put it right back up there, just like that. And then you left your weed all over the freaking table. No, hide it there. They're never gonna know, dude. They're gonna know.
All right, what do you want?
Let's. I need the box of scales and the roll of tape over there, over by the TV.
What tape do you want?
The blue masking tape. So I've seen a lot of guys get out of this sport in the last couple months, and I know why. There's a lot of junk talkers and stuff in this sport, and you just gotta kind of let that roll off your shoulders. There's been also another wave of people getting in, and they're asking really basic questions, and I feel like I am where I was 3 years ago when I had the idea to start the show, and I'm seeing a lot of guys just get horrible advice. I saw a post the other day, a guy asked a question, and you had, say, 12 people chime in, okay? There was maybe one dude... there was one dude that was right, and there was one dude that was kind of getting there. He just didn't know how to explain it right. And then everybody else was like, maybe it's the stereo knob. And I'm like, you guys got to be kidding, So I just want to kind of clear the air on some stuff. I'm going to show you guys what I do. As always, is all my videos, over 250 hours worth of film. With the old stuff and with me and Rich, I always show kind of, what I'm working with and stuff. If you have a different way of doing it, then that's okay. If you don't like the way I do it, that's okay too. I'm not making the video for you. I'm making the video for the guys that really don't know what to do. And what
works for us.
Yeah. With a rear motor car, there's more of a wedge adjustment that needs to go into the car, so the car's never perfectly symmetrical. And by symmetrical, I mean same on either side. But what I found with my mid-motor cars, they run the best when I have that thing scaled out as perfectly as possible. And that's what we're going to do tonight. We're going to scale this amazing DC1 car. Can you hand me one of the black R1 battery boxes up there so I can load this thing? So as far as a starting point on suspension, I can just tell you what I have on this thing, and it seems to work very, very well. I have 1 degree of toe in the rear. Now, why do you have toe in the rear, Dan? I hear a lot of other people talking about taking the toe out, and the reason being is you need to remember that toe in adds traction in the rear, okay? And you want to find that happy medium of being towed in to grab or to create as much traction as possible, but not being towed in to the point to where the car has a hard scrub to it, almost like a weight holding it back because the wheels are trying to force in towards each other. So a little bit of that helps for traction. It really does. That also transfers over to a real race car, a real car. That's why, if you got a good eye and you ever, been by having your wife's tires put on your car, and you look at the guy on the alignment rack and the rear tires on a Dodge Challenger that's IRS in the rear, looks like they're pointed in a little bit because they are. And the reason being is that it adds traction. I run 1 degree on one side, 1 degree on the other for a total of 2 degrees. And that might be a lot to some people, but I like the benefits with it. Kind of correlates with the rest of what I'm doing with the car. The front, I run 1 degree total of toe in. And why I'll run toe in, there's a happy medium, okay? There's a guy or two out there that like to run toe out. And toe out in the front usually is a good idea in like a stadium truck. Like when you hit a berm and one side comes up in the air, this wheel letting off the remote and letting it go straight, and straight being towed out, this wheel that's still on the ground being towed out, because it's steering towards the out, being towed out, is always going to automatically flop the truck back down so that it can regain power and continue on with the race. Unfortunately, I'm not setting my car up like a trophy truck. If I hit a rock with this thing or a curb with this thing, then it's over anyway. So what I'm setting up for is I'm setting up for a total 1 degree toe in. And just like the toe in the rear adds traction, for the front, toe in actually causes stability. So if you ever had a car that was perfectly straight, zeroed in toe, or a little bit towed out, it's really squirrely and darty, well, that's why. So if you want to take some of that squirrely away and make it, to where you'd have to really push on the car to get it to go off, that's where the toe in the front comes in. I usually run, this car right here is set up with, I think 3/4 or 1 degree of toe in, camber in the front. So if we take this car, this is not going to work out well for me, is it?
Sure, just let me turn this.
Well, it's hard for me to do it when I'm sitting down. But this car has almost a degree of camber in it in the front. And then in the rear, what I do is I like to set those up at 0, and sometimes 0 isn't where your patch is on your, and you can read the tire. So if you just build a brand new car and you set it up to this and you go out and you say, man, I'm getting a nice wide patch on my tire, but it's offset to the outside and there's a portion on the inside that isn't being used of the tire, well, then I would lean the tire in a little bit and try and move that patch over to the center of the tire. That's what you're going for. You're going for just about any kind of patch. Now, obviously, these belted tires are using the entire patch, so I'm not ever going to see any variances. I just got to make sure that I have a nice patch on the ground. Meaning
contact surface.
You want an even, a neutral. That's what I'm looking for. You want a neutral contact surface, which means that even though this side of the tire all the way out to the end might be contacting, the tire still might be leaning heavier on this side. And for that kind of stuff, you really just need to use your eyes. And usually, if you can get your suspension to have no kind of bowing, I call it bowing, like a bow and arrow. If it has no bowing, where the wheel, like if this is the front of the car and this is the back, the wheel doesn't go like this in a circular motion. It's going up and down. If you can get it to go perfectly up and down,
okay, in the rear, and it's at perfect 0, you should always have a perfectly centered contact patch. So that's just a basic setup with your battery and everything. You always want your wheelie bar a little bit off the ground because you want to give it a little bit to dig. If you have your bar too low, what it's going to be doing is when the weight transfers back, it's actually going to be suspending the rear wheels from biting. So again, 2 degrees toe in the rear, 1 degree toe in the front, adding stability, adding traction in the rear. I have 1 degree of camber in the front on each side, and then in the rear I'm zeroed out and I have a perfect contact patch on the ground. So now that I have that point and I know the car is where it's going to be when I go out and run the car as far as suspension setting wise, is the next thing I want to do is I want to load the car. I have the R1 11400 bad boy. So I'm going to put this in the car exactly like I'm running it, even right down to routing the wires, just like I run it. Because even, I mean, this wire, it weighs something, you know. These cars are so delicate and they're running on such a ragged edge that you can almost feel running it from this side to running it to this side. So I know in my car that so what I do is I run my battery was with the wires forward and it's over to the driver's side. That's where my car was scaled at. And then I'm going to put my wire through that loop. I'm going to hook it. And as you can see, that's holding my battery wire perfectly. Listen, you know, that's another thing too. If you guys are wiring cars and you guys are having to use zip ties or tie-offs from a bread bag or something like that, then you're doing it wrong. This car is completely wired with using nothing than the own torque or torsion of a wire, or pigtailing the wire, corkscrewing it, like these guys are here. You see how I took all that slack up just by corkscrewing the wires, and servo tape. So servo tape's okay to use. My speed control is here, and my spur gear is right here, and my speed control receiver wires go right towards the spur gear. So I ran a 1/4 inch by 1 inch piece of servo tape on the side of the speed control, and before the servo wire, the receiver wire goes towards the receiver, it is stuck to the side so it doesn't move when it's next to that spur gear. So there's little things you can do just to hold stuff in place. The thing already uses the O-rings. They need to be in the car to hold the battery, and might as well use them. The reason why I chose this side to come out on is that I have a little bit more weight on this side on the scales, so I'm trying to shift some of the weight to the other side. And this guy, I will even plug it in just like it's going to run on the ground. So you don't have the body on it. And somebody's going to say, well, you know, it's not exactly like you'd run it because you don't have the body on it. But I kind of do, and here's why. Because the body is symmetrical, okay? My body isn't going to be any heavier on the left than it is on the right. If there's a piece of Lexan that a body is made out of that when it was punched in the vacuum form, that stretched one side and one side's thicker, then there'll be a variance, yes, but they will be so small that it won't affect anything. So, and I need to be under the body of the car to make the adjustments. And if I put the body on, I can't make the adjustments I need to do for what we're going to do here. So what I'm getting at is I want the suspension set up. I want the car fully like all I have to do right now, let's say this battery was charged, the car was on, all I would have to do is put the body on and run it. So this is how I'm going to run the car. Nothing's going to move differently when I plug the battery in or anything. It's already plugged in. It's right where I leave it. It's a very clean setup. And now I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to set my scales up. So I don't remember what this cost. I think it's like $100. But if you want to take this racing seriously, and you really want to get into this, and you're really interested in getting into this, then this is the setup that you're going to want to get. I think there are another company or two that make scales too, and if you want to go with one of those, that's fine. But what I'm getting at is, let's see, what is this? Right rear. Is the scales are very, very important for knowing where the car is at. Red. I got this all messed up, didn't I? No, this one. So the reason why it takes a minute to set this up is all of these heads are color coded. Like this one is orange, and if you look at orange on here, that is the front right. Okay, so I want these things right where they're going to be. And then, like Rich is doing right now, we're going to take the wires down. I know it's just a little tiny piece of wire, but I don't want anything impeding on the chassis. I don't want anything leaning on it. I don't want anything interfering with what we're doing here. I want to make sure these things are just about perfect. Now, Rich, tell me, why am I using a piece of marble?
Because it's flat. It is flat.
It is perfectly dead.
Solid flat.
That's cool. We got one.
Just a couple, right?
Okay, so once I get this all set up to where I have all my heads that are at the right corners of the car, and I get my wires taped out of the way like Rich did, now I'm going to take the car off of them because I want to tar the scales out, which means zero it out. Okay, so I like to push the car down. Let's see where we're sitting. So this car right now is sitting at 377, 377 in the right, 378 in the left, so that's pretty damn close. And in the back, I got my right rear is heavy. Oh, I touched it. Is heavy at 992 over the left's 985. So what I'm going to do is I want that 985 to come up a little bit, or that 992 to go down a little bit to try and match them. Well, how do you know which one to do? Well, that all depends on what you're trying to do with the chassis. If I wanted a little bit more weight towards the front, then I would bring the 992 down to meet the 985 because it's taking that little bit of extra weight that I'm jacking out of it and it's putting it at the front. But you got
to remember, this is after your last run of getting the car going straight on the surface we were on.
Yeah.
So to fight a car going left or a car going right for that surface, this is what we ended up with.
Absolutely.
From a neutral setting.
From a neutral setting. So we're going to go back and we're going to 9085, and that is the rear left. I'm going to go down on it a little bit. I'm going to push the car back down and reset it. I went too far. Look, now I'm 983 over here, and it was just a little tiny turn. Right, left. $992. Oh.
You get the idea.
Oh, I see what I'm doing. And you just keep playing with it until you get them where you want them. This is getting close. Look, 987 to 990. So that's pretty darn close.
And then you look at your front rear percentage. Your side
rear
to side
left
is really good.
I'm gonna
Side to side's 50-50. And you're pretty good at 2872 rear.
Look, we're at 988, 989, 381 and 375. Now I can go back up to the front and try and dial those in, but that's going to affect the rear again too. So you keep going back and forth, and it really is a game. Sometimes cars will take 5 minutes to do this. Sometimes it'll take an hour to do this. So let's see. I got the right front is at 381 and the front left. So I'm going to give it a little bit of front left. Push it down again. I want to back that one up just a little.
Yeah, you're good.
So you're right there. I'm going to leave that car. That car is just about as good as that's going to get. So you're at 379 for the right front and 377, which is super, super close. Okay. And then in the rear, I'm at 989 and 988. So that car is scaled. That car is at a perfectly neutral point. And you can adjust from there for different shocks. I mean, for different tracks. You know, I set up for neutral, and then I go out and I do a rip. What I'm doing in practice is always try and run both lanes. Because, I mean, I've had races years ago where I was getting the right lane, say, all day long. And then actually that happened to me in San Leandro. Remember, I got down to the finals, and I had been running in the left lane all day long alongside the far buildings. Yeah. And then in the final, I drew the right lane, and I lost it. There was a bump there that my car wasn't set up to, and I wasn't taking into consideration what that lane was doing. And I had been getting left so many times. I went like 9 or 10 rounds that day, and it was always in the left lane. So I just was habitually in between rounds walking out and practicing after making little tweaks in the left lane, and I never ran the right lane, and I screwed myself. You know what I'm saying? Had I had made a last adjustment for the right lane and knew what the 2 adjustments were for each lane, because no 2 lanes are ever going to be the same. Ever, 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 ever. I don't care what laser pinpoint magic was used when the surface was made. I don't care. They're never going to be the same. They can be close, but they're never going to be very, very, exactly the same. So this is how I get a starting point of having a neutral chassis with a mid motor car. To go out and start making passes on a track, and like I said, then I adjust from there. So I hope this helps anybody that needs to scale a car that has heard about it, or maybe didn't even know that that it was this intense, that you had to do this kind of thing on these cars. And it really, really does help. You know, it's like taking a shot in the dark. Could you build your first mid-motor car and just go out and just put the shocks wherever you think they were and run it? Maybe if you're a 30-year veteran, you know, like some of us are, but there's a good chance that not a lot of you guys getting into it are that. So, and even then, it only happens once out of every 5 or 10 cars that you build. You know what I'm saying? That sprint car being one of them. I got some inside suspension tuning setups from a really, really good guy in Oval, Randy Lathrop, and the car just flat out works. So it doesn't matter if we're on concrete, asphalt, dirt, it just works. So, like I said, if you maybe you're building a Bullet, maybe you're building an Apollo, maybe you're building a 5-star design car, and I think that as long as it's a mid-motor car, that a lot of this will transfer over. There's a lot of guys that are new to the game, but they're jumping right off the cliff with a carbon fiber car, and they are kind of looking around, and sometimes your head can spin a little bit. There's so many, well, this guy's running 1 degree rear toe, and this guy's running more anti-squat, but he's got no rear toe, and this guy, you know what I'm saying? You're like, oh my God, well, this is a setup that will just kind of work for you at first. And if you want to, improve that or change that above and beyond, that's fine. That's what this was for, is kind of a starting point. This car, we went out and raced it the other day, and we were on a really crappy, so the surface was good for traction. About every 40 feet there was a crack, and where the 2 cracks came together, they kind of dimple up like asphalt will do, and the cars were kind of all over the place. And this R1 car is fast as hell out there, but it does not like that. It's a flat track car, so it's definitely not a stadium car. So like I said, I'll go over it real quick. I have 2 degrees of toe in the rear. I have 1 degree of toe in the front. I have 1 degree of camber in the front. I have zeroed out in the rear. I have my wheelie bar just off the ground, and that's a good starting point. And then you put all your electronics in it, just like I did, and then you put it on these scales, and it shows you exactly what you got. So the scales are actually really, really good for another thing too that not a lot of people take into consideration. Let's say I just built this car and I set it all up, the suspension wise, and adding my electronics, and I don't quite know where it would be. What does it matter if I put my speed controller over there or over there? Well, your speed control weighs 75 grams. That's why. You know what I'm saying? That is a key heavy component inside the car. So you can actually put them on the scales and see where your electronic components go. As far as where they're happy before you wire them and stuff, to start out with the most neutral setting in the car. I see a lot of guys where they have, their receiver over here on a plank chassis and their speed control to the left of it, so it's offset. And then it's a mid-motor car, and everybody knows that on a standard setup mid-motor car, that more of the can of the motor, which is the weight of the motor, is hanging off more to the left. So you always want to put that speed control on the right to kind of balance it, and they're not seeing that because it's not on scales. So that's one of the cool benefits of having the R1 car and having a speed control that weighs as much as the cat pack. And having them be equal and be right here as close to over the, not only are we close to taking all that dead weight in the car and moving right over the top of where we want to have all the weight, which is the center line of the rear wheels, but we're getting that as close as possible to that center line as we can, and then we're evening it out in the chassis so that you don't have a bunch of weight on this side, and then the shocks are all screwed up to kind of hold it there once you do get it on the scales. So there's different steps throughout building a car, setting up a car, running a car that you can use the scales that work very, very well. And if anybody, I didn't make anything clear, either chime in now, or if you see this video in the future, get a hold of me, Daniel Judd, through Judd's RC Motorsports. A lot of guys just get through my Facebook. Here's another, this just came out from R1. I keep saying, hey, Jay Joseph, I keep seeing this aluminum center bracket on your car, and I gotta know where you got it, dude. That's the one thing that I want on the car, is that aluminum center bracket. But this is the new. So the way that this car was set up first was to take the associated bulkhead with the front bulkhead with the associated nose cone on top of it, and the R1 carbon fiber plate that notches in between them, and then I think something else, and then another carbon fiber plate, and it's like 4 or 5 pieces stacked up. Well, R1 has answered that with the new aluminum solid bulkhead. This is a piece that is just going to fit right on your car, and everything is going to fit on. It's a beautiful piece. It's engineered very well. Stuff doesn't get engineered any better than R1. This stuff is just awesome. So instead of having bracketry that bolts to my existing shock tower, the bracketry for the body plank mount or the floating body mount in the front is actually built into this R1 shock tower. And it says you got the R1 logos on either side. And this is really, really short. This is only probably about 1 3/4 inches, 1 5/8 tall. And that's because this car eventually here is going to get these long associated shocks gone, and have the little tiny R1 shocks on it that are really, really trick. The car works so good right now that I'm hesitant to make the leap. So, and I kind of want to do the leap at the same time I do the transmission transplant, which I have done, but there's another piece I'm waiting for. So, if you guys are building a DC1, or you have one and you still have the stacked up pieces in the front, go on over to the R1 website and grab one of these bulkheads. I think they're $40 or $50, and man, they're worth it. This thing is it is so trick. It's got some weight. I mean, for aluminum, feel that. If I close your eyes, here's my new brass bulkhead. You'd say, yeah, okay.
Well, a little bit lighter, I think that would be, but
there's some weight to it compared to other aluminum bulkheads and stuff. So, it's solid. It's not all wallowed out. It ain't going nowhere. And it's a really cool piece. So it's gonna sit in there just like that. And we are going to change. Like I said, this car is it's still not done. We're gonna go to the shorter shocks. We're gonna go to the aluminum front bulkhead, and then we're gonna go to the R1 trans and ditch this associated. I call it the gobble box, because the boxes are just, they just twist and torque and turn. They're junk. So, that's it. I don't know what else is going on, Rich. Anybody asking any questions? We got any people watching? Talking to the wall?
We got Frank Greer's on here.
What's up, Frankie?
Corey Soros, Sean South. I don't know if Jason Sullivan.
And yes, as you can see from this car is heavy as hell. And I got enough power. I'm telling you guys, if you guys are still running, other products, Phantom and stuff, and you haven't tried an R1, go over and get an R1 motor. I'm telling you, man, they just don't come any. As of right now, as of technology, right this second, hands down, R1 has the best motors. They're so powerful, it's not even funny. This little 3-turn in this car right here doesn't give a F about how heavy this car. And I'm telling you, the weight that I have in this car really, really helps you get on the track. You could run out into the track at 72 miles an hour and kick this thing in the door as hard as you could, give it a soccer kick, and it ain't moving. You're gonna fall over backward. Yeah. But the car works really good like that. It's really happy. And then, I had a couple guys get on my case because I had so much brass from Jake's in the back, and they're, the thing's going to wheelie all the way down the track. And it never pulled the front wheels off the ground once, did 75, all the passes, the thing was just moving. So, yeah, that's pretty much it for tonight. I just kind of wanted to go over a quick sesh of how to, some starting points for the mid-motor suspension geometry, and then, some of just the basics about scaling a car. It can get more in depth. This is only going to turn out as accurate and be as good as the work that you put into it. And you altogether, start to finish, I think we've probably had this car here is only probably got 15 or 20 hits on it. And it's a really new car.
If that.
And it's been on the scales 4 times, and each once was when I was building it, just to make sure all my wiring was the right length and the right weight. And that's why I came up with the ESC wires jogged over to this side. So that, there's a rhyme and a reason for everything in this car. If there's a wire, like, why does he put the wire over there? Well, that's because that little bit of wire weighed 7 grams and I needed 6.5 on that side. You know what I'm saying? So, you can just get really, really in depth with this stuff. I want to give a huge shout out to my whole R1 team. Mr. Dibble, Jordan Yancey, Steve Villanueva, the owner of the company, obviously. Everybody loves Steve. Steve's an awesome guy, super innovative, super smart cat. Tony Cortez, Jay Joseph, all the guys on the R1, Mark Vine, all the guys that are just killing it with the R1 stuff. I know Mark Vine is super, super happy about his R1 gear. And from a guy that did what he did with Deacon and Phantom to make the switch and go, yeah, that should say something right there. So I knew 2 years ago when I started, running the R1 stuff on my own and buying my stuff before I even started talking to Steve, I just knew it was the way to go. I had used everything in the industry, and it's just the tuning parameters and the dashboard and the smoothness, and it's just the best ESC. So that's pretty much it. Anybody you want to give a shout out to?
No, I'm good.
Yeah. Okay. But that's pretty much it, guys. This is a starting point for guys that are getting into it, building a mid-motor car. We'll go over it one more time. I got 2 degrees toe in the rear. I got a degree toe in the front. I got a degree camber in the front. I got 0 in the rear. My wheelie bar is slightly off the ground. I have you either want to look for a level or a slightly raked chassis, lower in the front, higher in the rear. You never want it reversed. It'll have funny handling characteristics going down the track like that. If you have even a Traxxas car or associated car or a DR10 or whatever, and you have a car and when it starts really going fast about 50 or 60 feet, you notice you're having a problem with it being darty. You give it one little input, it goes vom to one side. Look at your toe in the front, and I bet you're either zeroed or you're toed out, and that's probably the reason. So, yeah, everybody keep going, keep doing what you're doing. Let's remember to love one another out there in the RC industry. God bless America and the red, white, and blue. And have a great night, guys.
Peace out.
Peace out.